for these problems, we have a couple different options. They can be linear, exponential, quadratic, or none of them. Remember, if something's linear, you are adding or subtracting the same thing over and over again. If something is exponential, you're multiplying or dividing the same thing over and over and over again. Quadratic, you have the same second difference. Remember, linear, you have the same first difference. You're adding or subtracting the same thing. Quadratic, you have the same second difference. And if it doesn't match any of those patterns, that's when it will be none of them. So if we take a look at this first one, we have a pattern here. From negative 14 to 9, from negative 9 to negative 4, from negative 4 to 1, 1 to 6, 11, 6 to 11, and then 11 to 16. So we can take a look here and say, well, how can I get from negative 14 to 9? Well, I can add 5. And then let's double check to make sure that that still works. Negative 9 to negative 4 is also plus 5. Negative 4 to 1 is plus 5. 1 to 6, 6 to 11, and 11 to 16. So because this pattern continues, the first difference is the same. This guy must be linear. If we were to graph it, it would be in a straight line. Now the next one, if I go from 4 to 8, I can add 4. But then 8 to 16, I'm adding 8. So right there, I know it can't be linear. That one's crossed off the table. So let's think of another thing that we could do. We could check for the second difference. So we could keep going. 16 to 32, I'd add 16. 32 to 64, I'd add 32. So now the second difference would be 4 to 8. I add 4. 8 to 16, I add 8. 16 to 32, I add 16. So the second difference isn't the same. So this means it can't be linear, can't be quadratic. My only other two choices are exponential or none. So remember, exponential, you're multiplying. And hopefully you already noticed this, but if you do 4 times 2, you get 8. If you do 8 times 2, you get 16. 16 times 2, you get 32. And the pattern continues all the way down. So this has to be exponential. And now the very last one on here, I'm going to check for linear first. So if I go from 30 to 20, I'm going to subtract 10. 20 to 12, I'm going to subtract 8. So right here already we know it's not linear. So keep going. Minus 6, minus 4, minus 2, minus 0. So the next thing I'm going to check for is quadratic. So I want to see if the second difference, the difference in between these blue numbers here, is the same. And in between negative 10 and negative 8, I add 2. And in between negative 8 and 6, I add 2. If you look, the pattern keeps on going. So this means it has to be quadratic. If none of those patterns hold, then your option is neither.